Do you have a top three?
It changes from time to time. I know Christine and the Fog are on it. I have a hard time picking, and these aren't in any order.
Yeah, I can't do an order.
Yeah.
I can maybe do a top three, but no order.
Yeah.
No 1, 2, 3.
I mean, how do you compare Big Trouble in Little China to The Thing?
Right.
Like, they're not going for the same
to In the
thing.
Mouth of Madness, to Village of the Damned.
Yeah.
Which is not in my top three. I like it though.
I've
Christine is also in my top three.
I've never seen Village of the Damned.
Oh, you got to see it.
Christine and the Fog. And this also changes, I think, from year to year. You know, I feel differently about it from time to time. I remember a while back, Prince of Darkness was on my top three. And I still love it, but The Fog and Christine, definitely there. And then I really do have a hard time picking a third between The Thing. It's probably The Thing.
The Thing is one of my favorite movies.
I have a hard time including it in my top three because I don't want to watch it nearly as often as I want to watch Big Trouble or The Fog and Christine, which are both dark, but they're dark in a way that's a little more fun than The Thing.
That's why I love They Live.
Yeah.
They Live is probably in my top three. I know that's a polarizing one, but
Yeah, I don't like it.
what about The Ward? Is that your favorite?
I've never seen The Ward. I've never seen Village of the Damned. I've never seen Memoirs of an Invisible Man either.
Oh.
There's also the Elvis one that he did with Kurt Russell.
That was a TV movie. That doesn't count. I haven't seen his shorts from film school either.
I've seen Dark Star.
Well, yeah, Dark Star. That's not my favorite, but I do like that as a Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young song.
I was at a Christmas party one year where Dark Star got gifted 3 times in the same night.
That's a hell of a party.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Well, one thing about Christine that I do like is, of course, Robert's Blossom
Yeah,
appearance.
he's pretty great in that one. That's probably my favorite John Carpenter score is Christine. I mean, Pork Chop Express is really good, but Christine is a pretty amazing score. And the effects in it, you know, The Thing gets all of the glory when it comes to John Carpenter effects, but the effects in Christine are pretty impressive in just much more subtle ways.
Yeah, I think they had 13 of those. What is that? Is that the Fury? Is that the 57 Fury?
I don't know about cars.
And that might even just be the trim line.
Yeah.
What is that car? It's a
It runs on gas.
it does.
Yeah.
It does. It's a gasoline automobile. Hey, welcome back to the Long Road Home Alone. I'm Joey Z. Thanks for having me again, Jimmy.
I'm very happy to be here.
I am so happy to be here too. Again, I want to thank you for having me specifically.
Thank you
You're welcome.
for having me.
You're welcome. Nice to be here.
Okay.
What are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about Robert's Blossom, Old Man Marley.
Marley. The salt turns the bodies into mummies.
Old Man Marley is supposed to be the heart of the film. Originally, he was not in the script. And when Chris Columbus joined the project, he thought, you need just a little more heart to this. At the end, it can't just be all slapstick. It can't be all Kevin and his family.
hijinks.
There has to be something more here. And then you get that in that final scene with Old Man Marley, which I guess makes a lot of people cry.
Not me.
No.
No, I swear it.
Some people. Have you actually cried during that scene?
During which scene?
The
salt turns the bodies into mummies.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I've cried.
Yeah.
Yeah, with fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary intro.
Yeah, it's scary. So that's not a bad place to start because you said that Marley provides the heart for the story, but he's also the scariest part of the story.
Yeah, so they spend several scenes setting him up as this sort of horror figure in the movie. Buzz first tells his story, and I mean, it's Buzz, and you can tell he's just being an older brother and trying to scare the, probably more naive cousin from Ohio.
Rod.
Rod, and his little brother. You can tell he's just trying to scare them. But I don't know, his story is like, he's got a lot of details. It didn't just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You ever hear of the South Bend Shovel Slayer? I mean, it's not, he didn't just make it up on the spot. People are talking about this.
Right. This is something that Buzz talks about at school. And he just so happens to live right across the street from the guy.
Yeah.
He's set up as sort of a ghoul, but never as a villain, right? Nothing overt. and the burglars are set up as villains, but they're never scary.
Yeah.
So you have this interesting dynamic where you've got this other piece of the puzzle that's set up right from the jump. Mm-hmm. And now Kevin has another thing to be afraid of. And it also feeds right into this Kevin is helpless. Mm-hmm. Kevin's a little baby. Kevin can't watch the movie with the big kids because he's going to be too scared. And it just feeds into this persona of Kevin.
Yeah.
But then things change.
Yeah, so our first few scenes with Old Man Marley, I mean, he kind of just is scary. You really don't think of him as anything but this scary old figure who may very well be a murderer in hiding until the church scene. When he and Kevin have their heart to heart. But up until then, like, he really does seem like a menacing figure. It does seem like all three of them get pretty scared when Old Man Marley looks in their direction.
Look out!
Watch out! Yeah. And then just like...
They shut the curtains, which, by the way, that curtain, that quote-unquote curtain that Buzz has in his window is just hideous.
Yeah.
It's like a shirt. Or something. He's really getting away with a lot. That house is otherwise, for the amount of people who live there, it's pretty immaculate. I can't believe Kate allows him to have some shirt hanging up over the window.
You can't keep any control over Buzz. He's going to do what he wants.
He's 15.
I doubt she approved his purchase of a tarantula.
Or a Playboy.
Yeah, that too. You know, something I noticed about that is that Kevin opens the lid and the Playboy is just right there on top. Like...
Oh, if I had a Playboy in my chest of personal effects at that age, it would have been so hidden.
Yeah.
It would have been inside some sort of false bottom or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is right at the top. Well, I mean, Buzz is going to be in and out of the system for sure. He's a bad seed.
Our next scene with Old Man Marley is the cops have just been knocking on the door and scaring Kevin. And he finally comes out like, I can't be a wimp. I'm the man of the house. And so he goes outside and he says, I'm not afraid anymore. And then Old Man Marley walks up and he just screams in Old Man Marley's face.
Which is it's a great scene. He's yelling to the world. Do you hear me? I said I'm not afraid anymore. And then Old Man Marley with just that awful zombie look on his face.
Yeah.
Bears down on him and he does that Kevin scream.
You're Old Man Marley and some kid is just screaming outside his front door that he's not afraid anymore. Like, his reaction is pretty reasonable. He seems imposing in the movie, but he just kind of sits there and stares at Kevin like, and
he's a little perturbed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the time that I give him less credit is in the pharmacy.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So he walks in while Kevin is trying to figure out if the toothbrush has been approved by the American Dental Association. And Old Man Marley has cut his hand and he steps up to Kevin and just slams his hand on the glass counter and stares at Kevin in a way that's pretty frightening. There's nothing good there. It's not like, hey, neighbor, good to see you.
It's very intimidating. It's a gnarly field dressing that he has on his hand, too. Yeah. It's just this bunch of bandages, really a lot of bandages wrapped around his hand and blood is seeping through.
Yeah.
What do you think he cut his hand on?
I just figured he was shoveling the sidewalks.
He needs a better shovel, man. That shovel that we see him, he walks up and down the street salting the sidewalks and he's dragging this trash can full of salt and it's not like a spade.
Yeah.
It's a flat shovel. It's a snow shovel.
Yeah.
And he puts the snow shovel into the top and just barely gets any.
Yeah.
It just bothers me so much. It's a terrible tool for what he's trying to do.
And there are no wheels on the garbage can. He's just dragging it. No, you see, I think
chains.
This gets us into A Christmas Carol, I think.
Your head is where my head is.
Yeah, there we are. Old Man Marley was an addition from Chris Columbus, and his goal for this movie was to just infuse every scene with as much Christmas spirit as possible. And so the character Old Man Marley, pretty sure it's a reference to Jacob Marley from A Christmas Carol.
I mean, it would be one heck of a coincidence.
Yeah.
If it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's a Christmas movie and a scary character that might as well be a monster is named Marley.
Yeah. And he's carrying this shovel around and this can of salt that he's just, carrying with him throughout the neighborhood.
His burden.
Check it out, Old Man Marley.
Who's he?
You ever heard of the South Bend Shovel Slayer?
No.
That's him. Back in 58, murdered his whole family and half the people on the block with the snow shovel. Been hiding out in this neighborhood ever since.
Well, if he's a shovel slayer, how come the cops don't arrest him?
Not enough evidence to convict.
What do you think about these things that people are saying about the South Bend Shovel Slayer?
Oh, about how Marley is him?
Well, mostly Buzz says that.
Yeah, but other people probably say it too.
You do get confirmation, so it's not total crap that Buzz is pitching to Rod and Kevin at the beginning of the movie. Old Man Marley in the church does say, there's a lot of things been going around about me, but none of it's true.
He is scary. Mm-hmm. He's really freaky. Stop being so scary and antisocial and creepy at night out on the street with blood on your hands.
I think he's just an old man who wants to be left alone. Maybe he is just trying to be nice. I mean, why is he shoveling the sidewalks of his neighborhood when he doesn't have to, and salting them? You know, like he's paying for all of that. It's clearly something he's trying to do out of kindness. Maybe it's a penance he's paying.
Right. I mean, you know, people talk. People, they talk. I don't know. I'm not saying it's fair, but it does make sense to me if at least a portion of the community talks about him.
Okay.
He's a weirdo.
Okay.
Just saying.
Okay. So let's first address, do you think Old Man Marley is the South Bend Shovel Slayer?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I think there's a 60% chance that he is. Okay. But I think that he feels bad about it. I think he was younger.
I don't think he is the South Bend Shovel Slayer. First of all, Buzz says he killed his whole family and half the people on the block. At the end of the movie, you see him with his family. So clearly, there's a falsehood right there, right off the bat.
Okay, you already have me convinced, because if the South Bend Shovel Slayer is a real murderer and he killed his whole family, then we know who he is. He's not really a serial killer. He's a mass murderer, right? And he's on the lam.
Yeah.
No, a serial killer doesn't kill his whole family, and the police are like, they got the FBI profiler in there going, who do you think this guy is? You know, what's his motive? You know who he is. He's got a mortgage on the house.
He killed his whole family and half the people on the block with a snow shovel. And then he goes on to say, well, if the police know he's here, why don't they try to arrest him? Not enough evidence to convict. You murdered your whole family and half the people on the block with a snow shovel, there wasn't enough evidence to convict.
They never found the bodies.
They never found the bodies.
He killed him. He killed him with a snow shovel, but they never found the bodies. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, and then, say he lived in South Bend and then moved to Winnetka to go into hiding. He moved into a mansion. You don't get money for murdering half the people on the block. It's not like a lucrative business.
Oh, I mean, unless they had all of their money in precious metals, bonds.
I guess that's possible.
He could have robbed them too.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Anyway,
but
I'm just saying he's not the South Bend Shovel Slayer.
Okay, I'm down to like 40%.
One piece of evidence I will give towards him being the South Bend. I've read an earlier version of the script where after Old Man Marley bops Marv and Harry on the head and they're unconscious and he rescues Kevin.
Yeah.
He gives Kevin a little wink and says, something I learned in South Bend.
Oh,
which
that could be him pulling Kevin's leg.
Yeah,
he comes off as a much more serious character.
Yeah.
He's got no jokes in him in the version we see, but that could be
maybe he knows what's going around about him.
And if he knows that he knows that things are going around about him, so he knows what those things are.
Yeah,
right.
No, I actually so I think he's been living in this neighborhood for quite a while, and whatever blew up with him and his son, everyone in the neighborhood heard about it, and that's what's going around about him.
But he said, but none of it's true.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
It is a weird line. Yeah. There's a lot of things going around about me. He just lets that hang out there.
He does.
He just puts that out there and lets it hang.
I kind of wonder about that. Okay, so Old Man Marley witnessed this theft of a toothbrush, and the people working at the pharmacy sending Jimmy after him, and then the police. I kind of wonder what Old Man Marley is thinking in that moment.
How much do you think Marley knows about Kevin's situation in these few days that we share with Kevin? Do you think that Marley knows that Kevin is home alone when he's talking to him at the church?
I don't think there's enough evidence to say that.
To convict.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough evidence to convict. But I don't know. I mean, he comes in at the end and saves Kevin, so he clearly knows something is up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of ruckus going on in the McAllister house when the Wet Bandits are hitting all the traps and all of that.
But he's kind of a guy who just keeps to himself, almost to a fault.
Yeah.
Not my business.
Yeah.
I am going to talk to this kid because it's Christmas Eve, and clearly this kid is afraid of me.
Yeah.
And I'm having some acute remorse because of the holidays. So I'm going to try to be friendly to this kid.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about the importance of the character.
Okay.
You had said how he is sort of the heart of the film. Why do you think that matters?
If you remove all of that, then it just kind of becomes slapstick, and it kind of becomes Kevin against the burglars and Kevin's relationship with his family, and all of that's like, it's good, but it doesn't quite hit you in the feels the way that Old Man Marley's reconciliation with his family does at the very end. You go into the end credits on such an emotional high from Old Man Marley, like being, and he's like in tears because of how happy he is that he's got his family back.
That's true. He is in tears.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little over the top. For me, the most important part about the Marley character is Kevin's growth and overcoming his fears. And he's having realizations about overcoming his own fears. And the best way for him to do that is when an adult shares something with him about his own fears that really mirror some fears that we've seen Kevin have and already overcome.
Old Man Marley's introduction in that scene is pretty great because Kevin turns around and sees him there, and he's just been a scary figure this entire movie. For a second, you're wondering, he's like, is anybody going to notice if I kill this kid in this church? He gets up, walks over, and then he just says Merry Christmas, and he's got like a nice smile on his face. And Kevin has this look, and even opens the conversation saying, I've been kind of a pain lately. Like, he knows that he's been a bother to people, which, you know, maybe there's not a ton of evidence for that. I don't feel like he's that bad, but he takes some ownership for it, and he feels like in some way he's magically driven his family away from him because he's been a pain, and he's learned to appreciate them because of that. And it feels like at that moment in time, Kevin and Old Man Marley are at the same point in their journey with their family. You know, they haven't been reunited yet, and they both miss their family in different ways.
Marley really talks to Kevin like an adult in that scene too.
Yeah.
Which I think strengthens the connection. He doesn't talk down to him. He has a real conversation with him like a peer. It's like, hey, I'm your neighbor.
Yeah.
Which in its own right is amusing.
Yeah.
That finally Marley pulls back the veil and he's like, I'm just a regular guy.
Well, I think that's also like, so this goes back to maybe your question of, does Marley know that Kevin's alone? And I think that's what draws him to Kevin, is that these are two people who are alone on Christmas, and there's something about that connection that draws them together. And they both learn something from each other too, because it's not just Old Man Marley imparting wisdom onto Kevin, it's also Kevin saying, you should go talk to your son, you know? Like,
Kevin gives Marley a real pep talk.
Yeah.
I think what Marley provides for Kevin is closure on this scary mystery of, is this guy dangerous enough?
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think Marley recognizes that Kevin's alone because the last 3 times he's seen him, he's been alone. Marley knows that Kevin is just wandering the streets. He's at church by himself on Christmas Eve, and he never once asks, where's your family?
Yeah. And particularly in the scene where he like runs out and he's shouting like, I'm not afraid anymore. Like, clearly his parents aren't home, or they wouldn't let him just walk out the front door and start shouting this to the neighbors.
Also, Marley was maybe not right there, but he might have been close enough to see the cop knocking on the door.
Yeah, he
knows something's going on.
Yeah.
He's a weird guy. I'm just saying.
Do you think he notices that they're stealing from the Murphys across the street?
Yeah.
I bet he does. And,
Yeah.
I bet he thinks, you know, if those people hadn't been talking about me all this time, I'd call the cops on those guys now.
That's right.
But they were talking crap about me, and
Mitch
I'm
is
not going to help them out.
Mitch Murphy over there is a total loudmouth. He's probably telling the same stories about Old Man Marley that Buzz is telling.
Yep. South Bend Shovel Slayer.
Yeah. It doesn't, just because he's not the South Bend Shovel Slayer does not mean he's not petty.
No.
He may be very petty.
Maybe he was a criminal in his past life, and he's like, you know what? If the Wet Bandits are going to steal from people in Winnetka, then I'm okay with it. But
Let 'em.
don't hurt my friend Kevin, because that's the only friend I have in the earth.
How old do you think he is, by the way? He looks like he's 150. He's really weird looking.
I don't know. I mean, you know, it's hard to tell because like everyone before 2000 basically smoked cigarettes and made themselves look 20 years older. Bruce Willis was like 33 in Die Hard.
He looks like he's good for 50.
Yeah,
in
I
Die
still
Hard.
looked like I was a boy when I was 33 years old. I'm pretty sure it's just how much people don't smoke anymore. And I'm sure Old Man Marley did smoke.
Okay. It's a special case, though.
Yeah.
I mean, so how old do you think he is?
62.
Holy cow. Really?
You think
Wow.
you think he's 73?
I thought he was 79.
79?
Yeah. I mean, he's got a young granddaughter, and his kid is probably in his 30s, but he seems like the kind of guy who would have,
No.
had a kid in his 40s.
All right, so he's 60. No, I think he's just a guy who's had a hard life, and he just looks pretty grizzled.
You live next to me, don't you? You can say hello when you see me. You don't have to be afraid. There's a lot of things going around about me, but none of it's true. Been a good boy this year?
I think so.
You swear to it?
No.
Yeah, I had a feeling. Well, this is the place to be if you're feeling bad about yourself.
Old Man Marley had an argument with his son, and he hasn't talked to him since then. What do you think that argument was about?
Oh, man. I wanted to ask you that question because I don't want to answer it.
I'm pretty sure it was the Carter-Reagan election.
And you think Marley is a Reaganite?
Yeah, I think his son was for Carter, and he was angry.
Oh,
about it.
you think it was political?
Yeah. Well, could have been Vietnam too. I mean,
Could have been Vietnam.
his son is maybe like 40 years old. 40. So yeah, 20 years before that, that still would have been Nam. I think
he's maybe a little young for not. Maybe not.
Yeah. Watergate
could have been. Yeah, could have had something to do with Nixon.
Yeah.
If it was politics, that really, because that argument ends in them saying they don't care to see each other anymore.
Yeah.
And politics it's not really about the political argument, right? It's about not seeing eye to eye. You always disrespect me.
Yeah.
It's a last straw.
Things that are foundational to your beliefs as a person.
And they read a lot into that. They go, well, if you believe that, I mean, if you believe that Reagan should be president, that means that you believe XYZ.
Yeah. And then
you don't believe the things that I do.
Yeah.
You don't respect me.
And then Old Man Marley said, I don't care to see you anymore.
We're going to go with that. It was a big argument, whatever it was.
Pretty big blowout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who do you think was a better Scrooge, by the way? Patrick Stewart or Michael Caine?
Brent Spiner. What about him?
Ooh.
Patrick Stewart probably played him the most like what I imagine the character being. Michael Caine I had more fun with, because there were Muppets around him.
Yeah. And Muppet Christmas Carol is the best Christmas Carol. And I've seen 17 of them.
Yeah.
Also, there are two Marleys in Muppet Christmas Carol. There's
Marley and
Jacob.
Marley.
No, there's Jacob and Robert, which is clearly a Bob Marley joke.
Yeah.
Michael Caine, he's fantastic. And he plays it so straight against a bunch of Muppets, which is really good.
Pretty tough. Probably
Stewart,
easier than just imagining something there with a tennis ball in front of you. Or
I mean, at least it's a Muppet. I mean, it's a practical. I'm not an actor, but I feel like I could act against a Muppet.
Yeah.
Do you think that Kate and Peter know Marley? There's a real question for you.
Yeah, I think they would totally be into neighborhood gossip. They probably know something's off about Old Man Marley, or at least that the rest of the neighborhood doesn't seem to like him for some reason.
Here's what I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to play the other side on this one. I think that Kate and Peter don't know Old Man Marley. And here's why. He's been in the neighborhood longer than they have. We don't know how long the McAllisters have been on that street.
Yeah, Old Man Marley does say,
he does say this happened before your family moved to the block.
I got in the argument with my son before your family moved to the block.
Yeah. I think the McAllisters are relative newcomers, probably, within the last few years. They probably moved there. They were more established financially. Now they have 5 kids. They need the bigger house. But I really get the impression that Peter and Kate are both Chicagoans. I think they know Murphy next door because he likewise is like an urbanite, but they're a little standoffish. I mean, they're kind of like standoffish elitists, and it wouldn't surprise me if they just haven't gotten around to going and meeting all their neighbors.
Definitely don't have his phone number. I don't think he's somebody they would consider calling to ask to go check on Kevin.
Okay, here's another good one though. Harry and Marv are like, everyone on the block is gone for the holidays. I checked every house. Do you go knocking on Marley's door?
Well,
or does Marley just never turn the lights on?
No,
he never
no.
opens up the curtains and he just didn't answer.
He specifically says all of the houses with no one home have automatic timers. And so they target all of these houses. So there are other people on the block still there.
Really high risk. Man.
Including Old Man Marley.
It's still the holidays.
But I don't know. I get the sense that Harry probably went up to Old Man Marley's house, knocked on the door, and just concluded this is not one of our targets. And keep an eye on him because he's going to be there. So maybe stay out of his field of vision. But I think that's probably it. He wasn't seen as a mark.
Did you ever see that movie Deranged?
No.
I think it's the only starring role that Roberts Blossom has ever had. It's one of those 70s super low budget horror flicks. But it's like almost 20 years older than Home Alone, and he basically looks the same age.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like he's 75.
It's cigarettes, man. Chain smoking, non-filtered cigarettes in the 60s and 70s is going to age you by 20 years.
Wow. Yeah, you'll learn something new every day.
Yeah.
So, once and for all, South Bend Shovel Slayer, you think he did it?
I don't.
You don't think he did it? You're going to stick to that?
I'm gonna stick with he didn't. I do think it's something that's going around about him at high school. But like I've experienced that kind of thing, where like people just tell stories.
All right,
about
fine.
neighbors.
It was a yes or no.
Fine. All right, go. What do you think? You think he's a South Bend Shovel Slayer?
No, I don't think he is anymore.
Okay.
You convinced me.
I convinced you.
Yeah. You don't have to belabor the point.
Do you think he's the heart of the film?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Marley is an interesting study. Home Alone does this remarkable thing where it's just this wild ride and you just accept every twist and turn. And at the end you go, what a great little story. But Marley as a character makes to me very little sense. But I like him. And he is my favorite character in Home Alone.
He's also my favorite character in Home Alone. He makes a lot of sense to me. I really like Marley, and there have been a few times watching Home Alone where I've gotten a little misty at the very end.
I knew it.
I don't know, like it really works. I think that is why people walk away from the movie feeling so good. I think it comes back to that Chris Columbus trying to inject that feeling of Christmas into the movie, and Old Man Marley getting reunited with his family and that being his Christmas present. It just sends the story off on a very feel-good moment where it's like, okay, not only did Kevin grow as a person, but he also helped out this old man, and now he gets to be a part of his granddaughter's life, and you get to feel good for it. And then you get one little joke at the end about, Kevin, what did you do to my room, while you're
for that final levity right before. It is really perfect. It's a symphony of emotions and delivers right at the end, like that big swelling note.
Oh yeah, and the wave that Old Man Marley gives to Kevin, like the fact that he sees him through the window and he's like, hey,
it's a little much.
It's not a little much, okay? This is why it's been around for as long as it is. And I know you don't like this really like heartsy stuff, but that's why it works.
What do you mean I don't like this really heartsy stuff? What other stuff?
Never mind.
Yeah.
The Long Road Home Alone is broadcast live from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. It's hosted by Jimmy Dantes and Joey Z and produced by Pat Muldoon. Until next time, eat junk and listen to rubbish.